Hello again, this is DeBey, the Farm Man. Today I want to talk about structure. I've been to the AIFD Symposium, the American Institute of Floral Designers Symposium. This year it was in Seattle, Washington, and it is always a very invigorating program to go to. You get to see all sorts of really wonderful stage presentations, floral design. I wish I could just take everyone with me when I go so you can see what happens in the industry. That symposium has given me an idea for today's program. One of the things that they did on stage was they created a very massive structure in which they placed flowers. Now, I'm not going to build something that's 12 or 15 feet tall today, but I hope to use some of those elements of design in doing that. So let me get started. Got my box. This is actually a bamboo box. Got my floral foam in here, and I've got some, this is known in the industry as river cane. It's a bamboo of sorts, and it starts out to make a good structure. Get a couple of pieces that are fairly evenly matched in diameter. And I want to take my knife and see if I can get a little bit of an angle. It's hollow, so it should slide in very well. Actually, because of the way my foam is placed in the box, I'm going to come to the edge. I want to be fairly straight up and down. There is a little natural curve in the bamboo, and so we will have some of that to deal with, but hopefully not a lot. See if I've done this fairly well. So I've got it almost the same height. And now I want to do some crossbars on it. And obviously this is maybe a little oversized for this container, so we're going to cut it down. I'll tell you a little bit about AIFD while I'm talking. I'm proud to say that I am a member. I'm the only active member in this region of Kansas. There are about a dozen of us scattered through the state. I was inducted in 2010 in Boston. You have to test for it, and it's a fairly rigorous test, and have to obviously pass before you are inducted. We just had 133 new members inducted. And we see people from all over the world coming in. There's about 1,600 members of AIFD worldwide. Back to mechanics here for a moment. This was one of the fun things I saw at Symposium. They were making use of all things, zip ties. And I thought, well, isn't that fun? And what's even more fun is that you can now buy zip ties in all of these fluorescent colors. I don't have a black light, so I haven't seen if they will glow in the dark or not. But they are great, bright colors, and I thought, rather than try to hide this mechanic, I wanted this mechanic right out in front. I wanted that bright color right up there in the front of it. Try a couple more of these, put another bar on. Maybe I should start mixing it up and use some other colors. So essentially I'm making a trellis. It's not, shouldn't be anything surprising if you're a gardener. Trellises are very common and should be something that you, even if you don't use, you are very familiar with. So just pull that up nice and tight, cinch that up. Kind of weaving it back and forth. See what my structure's doing while I'm doing that. What I really would love to have is some great binding material, and I don't have anything quite binding enough. Well, how about that? We have our first change of structure. The binding of the zip ties have caused this to come up on an angle. And so maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't need to worry about that. One of the things that you find as you design is that sometimes serendipity steps in and you find that you have something you never envisioned happening. And that's what we just had one of those little moments. So let's just go with it. I was going to be very straightforward and very vanilla, and this is telling me no, not the way to go. Let's see if I can get this to tighten up and stay where I wanted it. Maybe this may be laughable by the time I'm done with this. Now, what to do with that? I want it to be structurally much the same. So back to a little bit about the symposium. This was the 50th symposium. AIFD was officially incorporated in 1965, and 2 years later had their first symposium, which is really a fancy word for convention. And what you do at symposium, outside of renewing acquaintances with all of your chums, is that you see a lot of on-stage design work. You see techniques, you see new products that maybe haven't made it to the local wholesalers in your area. And you can also take all sorts of classes if you want to take further education in a specific area. They always offer a lot of different classes. So it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of learning. Like I said, that wasn't where I started with it, but I think I like what happened. So we'll play with this a little bit. Now I want to come and start putting some green in, and because this is bamboo, I wanted to do something a little tropical today, and this is actually a type of bamboo that is grown here in Kansas. A local producer grew this for me, and I love the fact that I have local product to work with. I can't always get local product. And as I was pulling flowers out today, I looked at these gorgeous hot chocolate Kella. They are really a very deep purple, and I don't know if we can get a good shot of them, but they come across as almost a black, but it is a very deep purple. We're going to wind that through up there, come down in, maybe I want to come through here and weave this into it and come into my phone. Pulling it down a little bit. So it's kind of peeking through that structure. Kella are one of the flowers that will actually hold up several days out of water, and what they do is it's a very thick fleshy stem, and they will pull moisture up through the stem to feed the blossom. You know, a fresh flower is a living organism, and it is always trying to complete its mission, and the mission of flowers is to reproduce, if you will, to set seed to make another plant. And so they give it their all and will always come out and do what they can to survive. I'm going to come in on this side now and have this one facing here so that this design becomes a little more, it's not just totally the one-sided. Start to see a little bit of pulling together. I've got a great tropical bundle. Let's see if we can get a shot of this. This is actually, they call it a tropical bundle. This is a group of products that comes out of In this case, I believe Southern California, but it could be South Africa. It is South African in its origins, and it is Proteas. These are the pink mink Protea, very heavy, very visually massive blossom. This is a safari sunset Protea, and then we've got eucalyptuses and wax flowers as accent in here. One thing I like to do with the leucadendron, or safari sunset as this is called, I like to go ahead and give this a little gloss. This is actually not a blossom as such, it is the foliage, and so you can do that and give that gloss, shine it up a little bit. This is something that could be used, I would envision that you could use this sort of design for maybe a big party. Could be an open house, a business opening. All of those sorts of things would be very definitely suitable. This would be suitable for those sorts of things. Pluck a little bit of this foliage off. I don't want to take it all off because I like this nice heavy foliage that comes on it. Let's see if I can give it a little bit of a cut here. Come around and tuck that down, and I want this not totally to base it, but I want it deep in the foam and deep in the arrangement so that I start to have some depth from here and start pulling it down, pull that eye down. People have asked, how do you know what sort of foliage is, how much to take off, and it kind of depends on how you're using things in a design. But I think if it's damaged, in this case it's been damaged in shipment and has this black mark on it, so I would pull it off. Anything that doesn't look nice, doesn't look like it is healthy and appropriate, I would take off. If you're doing vase work and putting it down into water, you don't want to have foliage that's necessarily underwater. Having said that, there are a couple of foliages that do that. Aspidistra is one of those foliages that we can use underwater, and it doesn't deteriorate, it doesn't foul the water. Let me see if I can come in and tuck this baby in behind. If I wanted even more stability in it as I'm doing this, I'm thinking I could probably take a zip tie and tie this to the structure as well. Not that this particular one needs it, but it would be another way to add a little bit more to that structure. And again, I want to come in, I want this to be pretty well all around, so I'm going to come in and take that off and see if I can find kind of a division here in this foliage. And there is a spot where the leaves get very small. I'm going to come in and give that a cut. Need to get the pruners out so we can get them out to show. So now, what I've got left, some things to utilize. This is a silver dollar eucalyptus. Probably, we're seeing most of our eucalyptuses in the U.S. now out of California. They've planted and they grow very well in that arid climates that they have in California. Some of it is in Arizona. You can do some of the eucalyptuses here as pot plants in the summer. I don't know any of them that will take our freezes. Come in and do a little bit of basing with this silver dollar eucalyptus to kind of cover my mechanics at the bottom here. I also have this piece left, and I cut that stem off, and rather than toss this in the trash, I want to give this a cut and tuck it down, and it will add a little element of interest. I could, if I wanted to, I could take some Design Master and come down and spray the stump, if you will, or you can do things like, if you don't have the design tools at home, you can always take your good old magic markers or permanent markers and see if we can color this a little bit so that I have a little point of interest down in the center rather than just that raw stem. So you just added another little touch of color into the design. Come over in the back, fill that up. And I'm to a point where I need to turn it to see what I've got showing on the front. So I think that, although I could keep on going and keep adding all sorts of other things, I think I just really need to kind of come in and try to cover my foam, cover my mechanics, and see that I have it made completely. I'm going to take the wax flower, and I think I'm going to cut it maybe a little shorter and try to use it more as a basing agent. I have these big blossoms up in here, so I want to pull some smaller things down here around the base, again to kind of pull the eye back into this area. This wax flower, I wish I could get the fragrance to come across the camera. I know it won't, but it reminds me of ivory soap when you bruise the foliage. It's got a very clean, very fresh scent to it. The blossom itself doesn't really have much fragrance, but the foliage has a great fragrance that I really like. Just turn it on around, pick up and clean up, and you know, here's a leaf that is torn. Some people would say leave it, it's nature, it's the way the critters have munched on it. I'm going to take it off and clean it up a little better. See if we can tuck a little bit into this side. So this structure or armature, like I said, it didn't end up quite where I started out at, but that's okay. That's kind of the fun of doing floral design. Sometimes you have a preconceived notion and it changes drastically as you actually get into it. And unless you have a, as we call them in the industry, a paint by number, I think it's wonderful to just go with the flow. And I think we have created a structure, and we've put some elements into it that wouldn't normally be found. We've got the bright colors of the zip ties added in there. I might, if I were going to go on with this, I might put a little bit of yellow. I don't know about picking up the blue, but I don't mind this as it is. So I think we will just move this aside for the moment, and I will try to move on to a little different type of structure. I want to be a little more traditional with this one. I have chosen this very upright vase, and it is, I had it in the cooler so it's drawn, it's sweating. Just a little humidity in the air today. So let's play with this a little and see what we can do. How much do I want? I think I'm going to try a different type and do something a little more horizontal with this particular idea. And then if you know me, the vertical will have to win out. I like height of things, so I'm sure the vertical will come through in the end. Let's just play a little with this zip ties and color and see where we can go from there. I did ride the light rail. I don't know if any of you have been in Seattle, but the SeaTac airport is quite a ways out, and so I rode the light rail in, and that was kind of an adventure. Being a small town resident, I don't get to do that sort of thing very often, and really enjoyed just taking the light rail in. It was very efficient, and it was very inexpensive, clean, and a lot of times up above. They did have some tunnels that went through, but a lot of times it was up, and you could get a view of the countryside as you went in. So more of this. Let's see where else we can go. I've used zip ties in the past, but I've never had or never used the brightly colored ones, and I just thought that was kind of a fun sort of way to add a little extra color into it. So take this, crunch that a little. I don't know if it's necessary to put an angle on it. It's just force of habit, of training to do it. Come in here, put that one in, and there on this side, put this in as well. Now, how do I tie this on? And what will happen if I tie this on? It'll start moving on me. I realize I've got a zip tie in my mouth. What you should know is that generally it's a florist's third hand. If we don't have a hand available for it, it's probably in our mouth, and we're trying to make conversation with something sticking out. So I apologize for that, but it is force of habit. Come here, right on the surface of this. The new inductees that came into the association this year, the American Institute of Floral Design, really were international in flavor. We had people from South America, several countries in South America. We had several from Mexico that were inducted, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Macau, England. Don't see a lot of the continental European florists coming in, but certainly had a lot of other folks from around the world, and it's kind of fun as you're walking around, you start hearing all of these foreign languages and have to stop and kind of think, well, what is that language? We did have some folks from somewhere in the Middle East, from an Arabic-speaking country that were inducted. I'm not quite sure where they were from. And I met a lovely lady at dinner table with a lovely lady named Pilar from Colombia. Aha! I think I've achieved something here. So what we've got is just this kind of funky structure going with a lot of color bouncing around it. What I want to do now is come in with some of the more traditional blossoms. And this is a locally grown product. I call it Blackeyed Susan. It may not be the correct name, but that's what I know it as. Has great life, base life to it. It just lasts and lasts almost forever, it seems. So we're going to come in here, little sunflower-like in its the way it presents itself. I don't know if I'm sitting on a stem. You're rocking in that base. And speaking of sunflowers, what I want to go ahead and use as focal flowers in this, and a focal flower is the big flower, the part that grabs your eye when you first look at a design. I want to do some of these very pretty bi-tone sunflowers. This is, again, a locally grown product, and what a joy to work with product that is locally grown. It's cut in the morning and I have it in the afternoon. And that takes about a week off of delivery time over my normal floral deliveries. So generally it has great base life. And as it opens, it changes. They will vary a little in color from one to the other, but as it opens, it does change color a little as well. This one is a little droopy, so I may be inclined to find a heavy wire and see if I can influence the position of the head. And in doing that, what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to come in and I'm going to pierce the back of the blossom at the base of the big pad. I'm not going to pierce into the stem. I want to add support without damaging any more of the vascular structure than I need to. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to come down the stem and I'm going to wrap that a few times. And now I have fairly good control. Come in, and if I wanted to be very neat with this, I could come in with my floral tape, which I don't see readily at hand, but I could tape this stem so that it would look like the natural stem. You wouldn't see that mechanic on the back of it. Not being able to do that, I think I'll just come in and try to be low, tuck it in low. See if we can get it into the bottom of this arrangement. One way to help, because in this case this is a big blossom and it tends to be droopy, I want it to be a little more upright. So we're making that happen. I've got some great LA lilies. LA lilies are a hybrid and relatively new. New as in maybe the last decade we've been seeing LA lilies. And they're a hybrid lily, and they have great color. They are not fragrant, and they're large blossomed flowers. So you get great large blossoms. You don't have a lot of fragrance. Sometimes lilies bother people. And I don't quite like where that one's going, so I'm going to shift this a little. One of my early instructors told me about placement and how you shouldn't just be able to place it and leave it there. And so I really rather beat myself up over that for a long time, thinking I wasn't doing it very well because I couldn't just do it the first time and leave it. And I've since decided that even the best of us, sometimes you just have to reposition where you put a blossom. And it's not a big sin to do. So let's tuck this in, have this coming out. I've got this more open blossom behind. I want to kind of protect it because they are fairly fragile. The blossoms will drop a branch pretty easily if they're thumbs. How's this? Isn't that a great big beautiful open lily? Come in on the back side here. Tuck this in down and in there. And a little bit more of this Blackeyed Susan. And again, kind of look at your product and remove what you think doesn't look good. If it doesn't look good to the eye. And if you're doing this at home, you might be more inclined to do leave a little bit more if it's showing some damage or some age. I can enjoy that myself. I don't necessarily, as a retail business, I don't want to send the product out that way unless I know specifically that my customer would understand and appreciate that. So I try to make sure that my presentation is clean, that the product is fresh and looks that way. A little bit of this, and I like this particular greenery because of the drape. Got great drape to it, and so I can, so far I'm pretty well at the edge of the container, but by adding this I can break that edge and I can pull my line down. And I like that, I like doing that. In fact, in this, maybe we'll take this and give it a little clip here, come in behind this lily. Let's see if I can track that down, stem down in. And get it down well into the water source. And then see if I can come up and bring this around. So that we have a little motion. Tuck it back in here if you want. Like I said, kind of mimicking nature, because nature does intertwine as it grows together. And I can even come around and maybe try to catch this in itself. Come up and put it out there. Now I need just a little bit to finish. And I'm going to choose, I've got the foliages on the flowers themselves. I've got this vinca vine that I can put in there. Now I want to come in and use another type of foliage. I like to have, again, that mix of foliages. This is salal or lemon leaf, and I've used it a lot through the years. Very durable. This is a product of that Pacific Northwest. In fact, I was able to see it growing in the trees. It's an understory plant in the trees in the Pacific Northwest, and there are, I dare say, millions of acres of it growing naturally out there. And it is still harvested in the wild. It's really not a plantation-grown crop. And I think perhaps I'm not going to spot here in front, but I'm close to completion. Could come in with a little bit of this evergreen, this arborvitae, which also, I guess I've got this northwest thing going in my head since I've been out there. And kind of filling some of those spots that might have a little bit of organic showing. And I think I have finished structure. This is my take on what I saw on stage at Symposium, and that's part of the joy of going to educational events like that, is that you do get to see something that probably will not be saleable in your store, but the beauty of it is that you need to look at that design and say, what elements are in there? What can I do to make that my own? And I'm hoping that in a small way I've done that with the use of the colored zip ties and the river cane, and I have made the structure mine. I'm DeBey, the Flower Man, AIFD, and I thank you for watching.